I made the point at the top of the show, we need a bit of perspective here. In the 2010 campaign, for the entire year of 2010, and indeed the entire campaign, Abbott was a long, long way behind Gillard. He ended up with more seats than her, but obviously we ended up with a hung parliament out of the negotiation. Scott Morrison too, behind right up until and including polling day. He won, of course, we know that now. So right now it's about trying to get that early momentum and keeping it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And look, I'll make the other point about how people interpret polls. For us, when we talk to people about our data, it's a diagnostic tool. It's not a fortune cookie, right? And much of the polling industry makes the really critical mistake of trying to say, well, this is what the result's going to be like. Well, we don't know, right? To your point, in 4 weeks' time, you and I might be having an absolutely different conversation with regards to the numbers.
Yeah.
We're still seeing the sort of volatility out there that should worry both major parties, but particularly incumbent governments. That's still there. And it's there in a very big way in Victoria.
A reality check too, I was at the gym this morning and one of the guys that I talked to there quite a bit, he's a trainer, basically runs a small business, so he's not uninformed. I said how busy it was, I wasn't going to be able to make one of the days this week. He said, oh, why is that? I said, well, the election's on, mate. And he said, oh, shit, have they called it yet? I went, no. Yeah, they have. No. And I thought that is such a reminder. We're knee deep in this stuff. The real world is only barely waking up to what's going on. Give me a sense of where the groups are, what people are saying to you in the groups.
Yeah, and this is an important point you just made. So when we're surveying people, we are aware that the people that are completing our surveys are not the person you spoke to this morning. People who don't really care about politics don't engage in political surveys. So you have to really factor in that skew. And these days it skews to the left with online panels. So that's that. We'll park that for the moment. I mean, there's a methodological challenge there, which the industry has to always overcome. Then, of course, you've got what are voters telling us in groups where you are able to have an hour and a half conversation with people like the person you spoke to this morning. And they're basically still in the same space. They are largely think that the system is stacked against them. They think that the economy is not working for them. And, I'm talking about largely people under the age of 45, particularly young mums in the outer suburbs and regions. They're still quite agnostic about the world around them, as in the political world around them, and they're not really tuned in yet. So that's where it's at.
And what about the younger voters and the point you've made, I think, on social media recently about the trust deficit? Yeah, it's huge. So younger people in this country, and I think across most of the Western world, have a really big issue with trusting institutions, thinking the economy is working for them. And I may say that younger people are extremely difficult to poll and can be quite volatile for incumbent governments right now. So if there's a... Why is that? Because why are they hard to poll? Why are they hard to poll? Explain that.
You can't get them on the phone. It's impossible. They won't answer their phones. And then if you're trying to get them engaged in political polling, they're not interested. Right? Because if they're anti-establishment, and this is some of the research that we've done, they think the system's stacked against them. They are anti-establishment. So sometimes commentators will misconstrue them as being right-wing because they are gravitated to people like Trump or Wilders in Holland. But at the same time, if you're anti-establishment, you're not going to fill in a polling survey because you think it's part of the problem, part of the system. So very difficult cohort to talk to. And also very
next week I want to talk to you about...
Yeah.
Next week I want to talk to you about influencers too, because they are, I think, the big game changer in this campaign in a way we haven't seen at this scale before 2025. But we'll leave that for next week. I'll leave it there. Kos, thank you as always.